Chau joins us live from Beijing. And James, does this report bring us any closer, in your estimation, to knowing what really happened on March 8th?
Thanks, Mike. Well, I tend to agree with Jim over there that it doesn't necessarily bring us closer to what happened on March 8th, nor where those passengers ended up. But it does provide the seating charts, the radar tracks, the likely flight paths, and also, of course, the cargo manifest. It eliminates some of the possibilities, but more critically, it builds towards the few bones that have been established in this case, which are the facts. This is an extraordinary case, 50-plus days into the disappearance of MH370. And I think for the government particularly, it was important to give as much and as full information as possible, even at this stage. Politically, of course, there have been accusations from the families and from other quarters that there was perhaps a conspiracy involved, or at least a cover-up was another phrase that's been frequently used in Kuala Lumpur itself. But I think that what the rundown of what happened in the first hours of this tragic case is that on the part of the defense minister and also the prime minister particularly, they did act within those critical minutes to scramble the two vessels and of course their Air Force jet by around 10:30 a.m. in that morning. So very, very important for them to do this and for the world to be seeing them to do this. Though of course for some they'll be asking that question is, why only now?
James, ultimately, you mentioned it was a search, it was a plane that disappeared, but really when it gets to the core of things, this is a human story, a lot of human suffering. You witnessed it firsthand, 5 weeks there in Kuala Lumpur. Walk us back through that time and what you learned about the families.
That I think, Mike, that nothing will actually bring them closure unless you can bring them their sons and daughters, their brothers and sisters, their mothers and fathers back alive, and a full explanation as to why they were missing and so much uncertainty there was for such a long period of time. I think also it hasn't just been the disappearance, but also what I understood then and even to this day, speaking to those families and staying in contact with them, is the toing and froing that they felt that so many of these stories changed, even on the part of leaks or government sources, or at least even in press conferences. I think also that that is the reason why the government did take its time in collating this information, to verifying every aspect of it, and then to sharing it with the public. On the surface of it, though, you know, it doesn't seem that there is anything of concrete worth within that we don't already know that could add to this case. But I think no doubt in the next couple of days people will be trying to determine not only who sat where, but in proximity to the cockpit, because of course it has never been confirmed one way or another whether that federal investigation has found the pilots responsible for this or not. On the part of the Defense Minister Hishammuddin himself, who of course continues to lead this probe, I think what's going to be interesting is to see where he goes from here. As we know, the search and rescue over in Australia is taking a step back. As they always said, they're going to regroup and reconsider how to move forward next. And I think that what's likely to happen is that he has indicated this already. I think we're going to see him head over to Perth over in the very, very near future. And I think he'll be wanting to meet with the rescuers, to thank them in person, also to get the context of that scale and as to where they could be headed next. So it can't be seen as one search and rescue effort on one side and on the other side an investigation, but I think they want to glue those parts together. And I think for the families, they'll be watching most of this. We do know that they've been asked to begin dispersing, begin returning home to their hometowns. Many of them are not from Beijing, and to begin considering their future. As part of that, Malaysian Airlines has offered a compensation package for them, which they say in no way binds them from pursuing their own criminal lawsuits later. So it'll be very interesting to see in the next day or two how they choose to respond, and also, as you said, Mike, there, how their emotions will allow them to respond.
James Chau, live for us in Beijing. Thanks so much.